Welcome back, dear listeners, to another powerful episode of Pleasure Principles. I'm your host Avik, and today we are getting into a conversation that hits on identity, healing, and the real work of leading yourself in a world that constantly pressures you to abandon who you are. And in this journey, please welcome my guest today, the powerhouse behind Phoenix Medicine, Gabriela Popescu. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Vic. It's good to be here. I'm excited to have this talk with you.
Amazing. And dear listeners, before we delve deep into the discussion, I would quickly love to introduce you with Gabriela. So, she is a transformational coach, speaker, and the spiritual mentor who has helped countless women break free from the burnout, people pleasing, and self betrayal by reconnecting with their truth through her signature soul path framework. So, Gabriela works across the four bodies: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. So she blends neuroscience, energy work, lived experiences, and the raw self ownership to help women reclaim their power and rise into a version of themselves that feels radically real. So her story goes behind the theory. She has survived trauma, rebuilt her identity, and alchemized pain into purpose. And now she teaches others how to do the same as well. So, right away, let's get started. Welcome to the show again, Gabriela.
Thank you.
Amazing. So, identity and the nervous system. You talk about how burnout and people pleasing aren't kind of personal traits. They are the nervous system responses. So, how does someone's identity actually shift when their nervous system starts to heal?
So if there's someone that's experiencing fight or flight, and they are going through something, they got triggered or what have you, an easy way to bring themselves into a sense of equilibrium could be to practice breath work. Uh, be it, alternative nostril breathing that takes 5 minutes and it balance out the nervous system. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a significant event, but even if you're, let's say, irritated or someone cut you off and you just want to reset, something as simple as breath work could bring them into a state of balance. And other ways to do that could also be just being in stillness for 5 minutes. You don't even have to practice any breath work per se. Just
Mhm.
stopping everything that you're doing and taking a couple minutes to come back into your body.
Okay. So, because you say these are the nervous system reactions, right? So, when someone starts healing, right, how does their sense of self actually change?
Well, once they start healing,
Mm,
everything should shift in their life, and all the work that they're doing, depending what that is, right, is going to support them into making more positive changes. And I would caution
mm,
people that are in the process of healing to not take everything all at once, not to try to do all the healing methodologies or all the frameworks all at once, but to take it step by step. To start with one simple habit, to do it for 21 days to 40 days, and then continue building from that place. Because for someone that has lived in stress or trauma for most of their life, uh, doing too much all at once can be a trigger in itself, and it could bring the person that's healing um, two steps back, if you will.
So, understood. Okay. And if we talk about the mindfulness that isn't performative, so many people hear the word mindfulness and think of the apps like breathing exercises or trends and all. Um, what do you think? What does the real mindfulness look like when it's used to rewire your life at the identity level?
I think that's something different for everyone. We're very unique. We all have a unique DNA and
Mm,
a set of, like, we're composed of different things, right? Different life experiences, culture, education,
mm,
whatever the case may be. So I think mindfulness could be something different for everyone, right? For me, it may be being present with my loved ones. It could
mm,
be, just sitting quiet in a quiet place and meditating on my intention for the day, right? For someone else, it could just be having a cup of coffee and just expressing gratitude for all the blessings they have in their life, right? And for you, it may be something completely different.
okay. So, and you work with the physical, emotional, mental, and the spiritual, the four sides.
Mhm.
Um, which of these tends to be most neglected, and why does ignoring it lead to kind of self betrayal?
I think the emotional and the mental body, because even though as a society, as a collective across
Mm,
the world, we are taught to that education and, like, being in our mental capacity is the way to go. There are aspects of the mental body that we don't really explore, such as, negative self talk, the things that we ingest, the media, the people that we surround ourselves with. All of
mm,
those things affect the mental body. And, you know, you have the four bodies, and there's a trickle up and trickle down effect. So, depending on how out of balance you are with one body, it affects the whole system. And then for the emotional body, I think that uh a- at least in some cultures, in most cultures,
mm,
I'm not sure. I wouldn't say across the board, but in most cultures, we are taught to suppress our negative emotions and to just shut them down, not express them, because if we do, it could be construed as impolite or as being rude or whatever the case may be.
mm,
And I would challenge that, to say that we need to rethink and reimagine expressing negative emotions, because they need to be expressed in a constructive, safe space, and they need to be released because, again, otherwise it's going to trickle up or down. And then that's where the imbalance, the burnout, the triggers come in.
regarding the trauma, which shapes who we think we have to be, you have been open about surviving abuse and the burnout. So, what do you think? Like, how did trauma shape the identity that you thought you needed to perform?
Yeah. So, absolutely. When you are
Mhm,
in an active state of trauma,
mhm,
your view of the world is very small. And, depending on your abuser, um, they have the capacity and the ability to shape and create a very warped world.
yeah.
And because you do not see an escape
Mm,
or a venue for change, you start believing them again, right? Like the people that you surround yourself with also get to shape and influence your behavior and
mm.
your reality for that matter. So, yeah,
Okay. And how did healing dismantle that version of you?
it took a lot of teachers and a lot of different methodologies. And that's how I came up with the soul path, the 4 steps to harmony. I put one foot in front of the other. and I just kept going. It's a consistency over perfection.
Hmm.
Whatever you do, just keep going and celebrate even the low days because at least you showed up. So,
Yeah.
yeah, just keep going.
Okay. You teach about the leadership through nervous system regulation.
Mhm.
And if you can share about what does that actually look like in real life when someone is spiraling or triggered?
Mhm. Like I said, you could be someone that, you know, you're having a conversation and then someone makes a comment,
Mm.
they say a key phrase, and you shut down, you freeze, or you get angry. All of those things are possible.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of, reacting to it, what I would recommend is doing a couple things. Take a
Mm.
few deep breaths, and then if you can say, "Hey, I need a little bit of time. I'll come back to you on whatever the case or on whatever the trigger was," and then having a conversation with that person and expressing to them in a healthy way what has happened. And then on your end, sitting with yourself and exploring
Mm.
if that trigger or that belief that it brought to the surface, if that's really true, or if that's something that you inherited
Yeah.
from other people that had a very small view of the world, and is that really true? That's really just asking your mind and your unconscious mind, is that true or is that just a story?
Hmm. Okay, got it. So, um, and also like in your work, burnout is not just about the exhaustion. It's a boundary, or I'd say it's a boundary crisis, identity crisis, and the soul crisis. So,
Mm.
what do you wish women understood earlier about the root of burnout?
I
Mm.
The root of burnout is lack of self-love, and it stems from the limiting belief or negative belief that I'm not enough and that I'm only appreciated and loved when
Mm.
I produce. So, you know, putting your oxygen mask first before you put it on someone else, it's the same
Yes.
concept. Filling your cup before you fill someone else's cup because you
Mm.
can't give from a place of emptiness and from being on empty. I believe that, in this time and age of instant gratification and constantly being asked to produce or to respond or to perform, it's especially for women that doesn't work because we should live according to our cycles. We
Yeah.
should have an ebb and flow to our life where, you know, during a certain period we are creative, producing, productive, and then there's rest. And if we can't create that, then what I recommend is making sure that and checking in with yourself a lot frequently. Is my cup full? If it's not full, then stopping what you're doing as soon as you can and filling your cup. If whether it's a yoga class or, getting a massage or just reading a book or being outside in nature, whatever fills your cup, make sure you're taking those actions and steps to do that. And then you'll be very supportive to your family and your community, and everyone's going to benefit from you taking that step and that action.
Got it. Hmm. And regarding the soul path, um, how does someone know that they are out of alignment?
Mm. I for quite a bit big part of my life, I thought I was alone and that was factually inaccurate. But that's really that's what it is.
Hmm.
We I think that number one, yes, we have our family and our community, etc.
Hmm.
And there's also the connection with higher self, with God, source, whatever you want to name it.
Hmm.
And it could be incredibly supportive and healing. Like I've used many spiritual guides as a pathway to healing. And once I've had that spiritual connection, everything became much, much easier.
Okay. And if a listener who is thinking that I have lost myself or I don't even know who I am without the chaos, then what's the first step back to the self?
It depends for everyone, right? Like I said, we're very different and unique, but just coming back to oneself and just sitting in silence and seeing what comes forward. And if that doesn't really resonate, then
Mm.
pi taking out a piece of paper and just start writing. Start writing until, you fill like 2 or 3 pages and see what comes up. You may be surprised what your unconscious mind has been keeping from you or has been suppressing, and asking yourself, what lights me up? I think that's the first step. What lights me up? And then continue feeding that, um, and filling your cup, because like I said, we could be our biggest critics. And if we could learn to talk and be with ourselves the same way we talk to our best friends or with our partners, our connection to self would significantly improve, and you'll find your path back to yourself much, much easier.
Exactly. Amazing. So, Gabriela, and this conversation was ignition, I'd say, and you break down healing in a way that feels human, practical, and powerful. And the nervous system that work isn't just a kind of therapy talk, but it's all about the identity work. It's a leadership work and it's a pleasure work. So to everyone who is listening, this the version of you are looking for isn't gone. She's buried under survival patterns. And you get to choose the moment you rise. So, Gabriela, if anyone wants to connect with you, what will be the great medium to connect?
They could go to my website, phoenixmedicine.me, and there I have all my social media accounts, and they could find more information about my book and also my free gift that I have to the world, where they could just simply tune into their body, emotions, mind, and spirit, and get back to who they really are.
Exactly. So, dear listeners, what I'll do is I'll put all the links and the details into the show notes for easy reference. And with this hope, until next time, this is your host Avik, and this is Pleasure Principles. See you soon in the next episode. Thank you so much.